Hey everyone, welcome back to Contemplating Resonance, where we explore the intersection of spirituality, embodiment, and personal transformation. I am your host, Matt Stein, and today's episode is going to be a beautiful blend of movement, magic, and empowerment. I am joined by the incredible Ember Fae. I'm saying that right? Okay, cool. A fairy witch, burlesque performer, and exotic animal veterinarian by day. You see, you never know what you're going to get, right? like I am pulling out all of the stops this season. So by night, they weave spellbinding performances filled with fairy mischief and burlesque sorcery, enchanting audiences with their unique blend of magic and movement. We're going to dive into the world of burlesque, what it is, how it empowers performers, and how it can be infused with witchcraft. Ember has been working with the energy of Inanna, and we will explore the witchy angle they're bringing to their performances, as well as the witch wounds connected to Inanna's mythology. But first, as always, at least in this season of the podcast, we're going to go pull some cards for a quick energy check. And today, I bring the Dark Goddess Oracle. And like I was warning Ember before that this deck is a little bit brutal. So we shall see what happens. Anything particular top of mind that we want to ask these cards?
Go with what is the energy we're bringing to this podcast today?
What is the energy? I mean, it's definitely palpable. I'll tell you that much. I like podcasting in the morning too. I'm more of a morning person now than I was many years ago. I think I've completely flip-flopped on that. Like my favorite time of day.
Person.
Like nighttime, the hour before dawn. Yeah. The hour right before dawn is like my favorite time. It's quiet and dark. I can light my candles and
I got mine. I have my candle energy of don't fuck with my energy. So it's got that stamped on there. So I bring it with me everywhere. It's my morning energies that I light in the morning.
Nice. I have a mug that's this same size that has "Don't fuck with my energy" on it.
It's a good vibe.
All right, let us see what we have here. I mean, this feels appropriate. I don't know why, but it really does. So we have and what's really fucking crazy about this card is you see all of her arms. So when I was doing my morning ritual, and I have several times where I do this, and as I was bringing my hands up, I swear I saw extra arms.
Oh.
So this is a little bit, it's always a little too on point.
I love that.
So let's see what we have about this. Is this alphabetical order? I do not.
There's also a lot of flow in that card. So I love that we're talking about dance today because you can see she's there's movement in the card.
Totally. That's so true. That is so true. I was moving this morning. I'm not the where is this? Okay, I found it. I'm not normally much of a dancer. You're balancing me out here, but I was playing this Earth playlist that Wendy Mata made, and there was it's called Forest Ohm is the name of the song, and it just had this beat, and I was just I was listening to it again right before we started the session. I'm just doing my thing. It was great. So Ditty. I've never heard this particular goddess pronounced, so we're gonna go with it. Boiling point. Must seek revenge. Destroy this act. Must be avenged. Stop, retract. Time to think twice. Forgive, move on, or pay the price. By the power of the dark goddess in me, protection in place. Blessed be. Love it.
Me too. I mean, I don't know. I just get vibes of this is all about the patriarchy, and that's kind of the time period we're in right now. So I kind of love it as the vibe for this podcast. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So Indian origin, Didi wanted a son more powerful than Indra, who had killed her previous children. But Indra used a thunderbolt to splinter the fetus into many pieces, creating the 49 Maruts? I don't know. Didi was also instrumental in the partitioning of India into Hindi and Tamil, North and South India to gain control and autonomy over the gods. Okay, I clearly don't know enough. I need to dig into this more. That sounds really fascinating. I thought I'd heard it all about the Eastern philosophy stuff, but
Yeah, I think it's very cool and interesting. I'm in a group right now with a woman who she comes from India. She practices Hinduism. And it's so interesting to talk to her because, like, there's so much about our culture here that's like witchcraft is such like, you have to intentionally incorporate it into a lot of things, right? Like, there's a lot of intention involved. Whereas,
yeah.
like, in her culture, it's just she like doesn't identify as a witch because it's just so ingrained in her culture and like they
Yeah.
associate witches with healers, and so she's just like, I don't really associate myself with healing, but like witchcraft is just so part of our everyday tradition that like we don't even think twice about it, and it's just, you know, it's just incorporated in everyday life.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
love
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's funny, these themes keep coming up for me. Oh, like everything for me right now is about integration. Like bringing things together, things, it's not that you're doing this and then you're doing this. It's like you're always doing all of it. And it's just a really cool energy because I don't know, I feel like I've been like trying to move away from like dichotomous thinking my entire life. Like it was like, this is, everything's black and white as I'm a kid. And I'm like, I don't really see it that way. But of course, you don't know how to articulate that when you're tiny. But it just kept coming up, it kept coming up, even when I would resist it. Because that was like when I went in my evangelical church years, like, which I don't recognize myself when I think about that time. But it's like that was like the peak of like binary thinking.
that.
Everything it's either good or evil. You're either in or out. You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell. And yeah, like it's been the last few years has been like the final just like cutting ties with that. But then you're not pushing things away. There's still a part of you. You're just bringing it all together into this one thing that's all completely fully you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and like I think on topic for sure, but I want to stop talking. So with all of that fun energy in mind, and oh, by the way, before I forget, revenge. Um, so we have had this little um, intention that we've been putting out into the universe for the past, I guess, 3 weeks now. And that intention is may they get what they deserve.
Mm.
So I just thought I would go ahead and put it out there into the universe one more time. And this episode will air in the future, so it will go out again. And I'm here for it.
I love
But
it.
with that energy in mind, so for those that don't know you yet, how would you introduce yourself and your work?
Oh, yeah, that's such a hard question. And it's going off of like what you were just saying, right? This dichotomy, this like black and white of who you are. And so for a really long time, like if you were to ask me that question, I'd be like, oh, I'm a veterinarian. Like that's all I do. Like I'm a vet. And I think that's just a product of like the energy and time that went into that for me. Like it was a lot. It was my whole essentially like 20s, and I'm really proud to say that is not how I answer that question anymore. I think I've been able to kind of expand that definition to a lot more. So, like, I don't know. I guess I am a healer. I'm a dancer. I'm a performer, burlesque performer. I love supporting the arts. I'm a witch. I'm a priestess. So that's essentially like the energy I go into every day. Is that it's just like this like whole group of things that describe Ember. Um, and I really just try to like blend a lot of aspects of my life into a whole, which is what I bring to my burlesque performances as well, rather than like trying to, I guess, separate myself into all these like little distinct boxes. And like some examples of that. So, like in my veterinary medicine, I practice like acupuncture work and some integrative medicine healing there and some spiritual energy. And then, as we were talking about for my burlesque performances, I really try to like pull in some of my witchy practices to create like acts that really feel fully like me.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I love it. I love it. Like, yeah, like, moving away from all the little boxes, like that to me is just what really sticks out. And like hearing you talk about infusing both direction, or not both, multiple directions, like you bring stuff to your professional environment that, you know, depending on who you're talking to, that might sound weird, but for you, it is. Like, it's the way you think it should be. It feels right. You're trusting your intuition to bring things together in ways that make them better than they were separate from one another, right?
Yeah. And I'm so fortunate, like, even in my job, I don't really have to hide a lot of who I am. Like,
Mm.
I don't know, people in my job know, like, oh yeah, like that witch, like they use it as like a term of endearment. And like I'm just like, yeah, you want some tarot card readings? Come to my office. Like it's very much ingrained in like my office culture. And I know that that is like such a privilege to have. So I would like never leave my job because I love it so much. And I feel like I can fully show up there. And that has been so essential, like having that network and support that like, you know, I'm sure there's people who are like, all right, she's a freak. And I'm like, cool with that. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, that's fine. But I've had like my boss come to my burlesque performances. So like that's the level of support that I have
Amazing.
there.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. So burlesque. That was going to be the theme here we were going to work with, because I'm like, why can't I absolutely want to have you on to talk about all this stuff, because like I want people to understand how big this concept of resonance actually is. Like things that resonate with people who are into all this mystical, witchy, spiritual, whatever. We're bringing all kinds of other stuff to it and taking that to all kinds of other stuff because it resonates, because it's like, yeah, this feels right. This energy is good. So yeah, I was super excited to have you talk about all the things, but
I
probably
was so
most of
excited you
us,
asked me. I was like so
yeah,
thrilled. I was like, oh my God, me?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Listen, I basically I make friends with people and then I have them on my podcast. Like that's just like this is me just getting to talk with people and have fun conversations and then put it out there, and people like to listen to it. Oh my God. So yeah, this is fun. This is just hanging out. And anyway, I'm all over the map this morning. Burlesque. Probably most of us aren't familiar with it beyond pop culture. So I'm going to let you tell us what even is burlesque.
I can definitely do that. And I was, Matt, have you ever been to a burlesque show before?
So I have not. I have not. I have almost been. It's always been like, oh, we should go to that, and then we forget, or oh, we should go to that. I've been to drag shows, but I haven't been to burlesque shows, and I know
Yeah.
there's a difference,
Yeah, there's like
but an
sister
overlap.
there. Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of times they call it draglesque sometimes when they'll like
Yeah,
combine
nice.
drag and burlesque. But yeah, I would say like to anybody listening, if you've never been to a burlesque show, like I guarantee you have one local within like 30, 45 minutes of you to like just get out and go to a show, because there's just no, like, I'm gonna, you know, I have some info about like the history of burlesque and all that, but like there is nothing that just describes the energy when you're at a show like that and people are yelling and people are like just having so much fun and performers are spreading messages and taking off their clothes. It's just the energy is incredible. So like please, oh my gosh, listeners, like go support your local burlesque. There are some like traveling burlesque troops that like, you know, are production based and usually have like a lot of money supporting them. And those are fine too. But like if you can find a local burlesque troupe and support them, like those are your people, your community. So like go find
Love
one.
it. Love it.
But yeah, so burlesque is like a very interesting history. So like I think the term burlesque actually like came up in like literally the 1600s, and it was this like theatrical satire, like comedy kind of situation, and there was like, you know, people just dressing up and performing these comedy shows. But I think in like America, it was really like the 1800s, like the mid 1800s, when travel was becoming, you know, much more of a thing. Like people were traveling across seas to come and perform, that it really started to take root. And there was a group like that came to New York City in like I think it was like the 1860s. Lydia Thompson and her British Blonde, so coming overseas from England, and they performed at a venue in New York City and just like blew the roof off the house. And their like reviews after were so insane. People were just like talking them up. They turned like a 6-month tour to a 6-year tour. And the reason they were so unique is like literally because you had these women that were there in these like beautiful costumes, and they were like wearing these nude stockings. And in the 1860s, these nude stockings were like, oh my goodness, that is so sassy. Like that is so sexy. And it wasn't even like about seeing the skin, right? Because they were still covered like head to toe, you know, whatever. But it was this like teasing shape of the leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that like really took
The
off.
allure.
Yes, the allure, the art of the tease. So that really like is what I think set off the whole burlesque kind of scene in America specifically. And so like you move on to like 1900s, 90s, you get these like burlesque troupes or circuits like traveling around America and performing. You get performers, for those of you who have ever seen, you know, the movie with Gypsy Rose Lee, she's performing with like the Minsky's burlesque troupes, and just like it's really just blowing up here. And that's where you get a lot of these like beautiful costumes and these groups of usually women like performing. You know, you kind of get into like the prohibition era, right? Like, you know, in 1920s, and you get these speakeasies. And now instead of being able to have these like huge troops, right, it really came down to like individuals, again, usually women, who are performing in these like really tiny speakeasies, and you know, bringing in that like sexy striptease vibe. And you get kind of like the start of the first strippers happening, which is really cool. And then like after that, so we have this like surgence of burlesque, and then you get to like 1930s, and I think it was the New York governor LaGuardia, the guy who like made the LaGuardia airport. I don't remember his full name, but it was like Governor LaGuardia. He just went on like a war against burlesque about how inappropriate it is, and started to like control what body parts you could see and what clothing could be worn and where it could be performed, and like was literally just like shutting down theaters that were offering burlesque performances. So it kind of like from there fizzled out a little bit, just because there was like such a risk of performing, which was like very unfortunate, and very unfortunately, and just like classic patriarchal bullshit. But you know, we get to the 60s and 70s now, like freedom times, like dancing, go-go dancing. We get like cages and clubs and poles. We get the beginnings of literally like strip clubs where you have, you know, people performing on these poles. And just like from there, kind of, you know, the erotic entertainment industry really became like a huge thing. And that went on for a few decades until we get to like the 90s, where there just becomes this like nostalgia for that classic burlesque, the feathers, the sparkles, like all of the pretty costumes. And then you just get like an emergence of a lot of performers who are like still around today, Catherine Delish, Dirty Martini. And they, you know, really just kind of like reinvigorated like that classic burlesque, and kind of like where we're at with burlesque today, where we just have, you know, festivals all over the world, shows, troops. There's like all different forms of burlesque too. The kind of like scene we see now is like neo burlesque, which is sort of like the new burlesque with, you know, modern soundtracks with maybe like a bump and grind kind of feel to them. And really just like, I guess with all that history, to like go back to your question of like, what is burlesque? Essentially, it's just like the art of the tease. It's basically, as a performer, you're sharing. Oh my gosh, my cat's just like meowing in the background. So I'm sorry if you can hear her.
Yeah.
She's just gonna keep meowing. So just like the art of the tease, it's about sharing your story and like drawing the audience in with like this push and pull of like, okay, you're watching me, like now you have to listen to what I have to say. And like, really just kind of like usually down to like not really full nudity. Usually it's down to like what we call pasties. I actually am wearing like one of my shirts right now that my burlesque mentor made, but it's like, ooh, so these are like actually a pair of pasties that I own. They're like little pentagram pasties, which I love. But this is essentially what you get down to. And, maybe like little panties and perform, and it's so much fun.
You are not passionate about this at all.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I could just keep talking.
No, I love it. I love it. The energy is real.
I do have a lot of energy. It's that morning energy vibe.
There you go. There you go.
Tea. We're good.
Excellent. Yeah, like so many things. I don't know how I didn't realize the crossover with the speakeasies, but that fascinates me because I am fascinated with speakeasies. I come at it from I basically am trying to learn how to make every single classic Prohibition era cocktail. Mixology is one of my things. Oh. I don't get to spend nearly as much time on it as I did during lockdown. Like during lockdown, I was like, that was my sourdough starter. I
still have mine in the fridge.
Yeah. Nice. I actually read a really fun witchy book about a sourdough starter that had like a spirit. Yeah, it was a whole bakery vibe. Like it was great. But yeah, like I love that vibe. And like, of course, New York has a number of like, neo speakeasies. Basically, it's like bring back that vibe, and those are absolutely my favorite bars to go spend time in. I can give recommendations if you're ever in Manhattan, because there's like 2 or 3 that are just, they're lights out. They're so good.
I love that. I'm in upstate New York, actually. So I'm like originally from Long Island. So I go to New York City quite a bit. So
okay, cool. Yeah. There's one very close to Union Square that's my favorite. It's called the Rains Law Room. And I forget what the story is behind the name of it, but it was you can, if you're standing at the bar and you turn around, there's like a newspaper article up on the wall that explains the whole idea of a law room and what that was about. If I recall correctly, it had something to do with like a place that you could get like a sandwich and a drink, like during, but like it was frequented by, like professionals in the middle of the day who are like, trying to sneak off and then come back. I think that's what it was. And if I'm completely making that up and someone decides to fact check me, good. Like, because I'm stitching together knowledge that, I gained years ago, and I have not recalled it until right now.
And it'll make them learn and search. So
learn you a little bit about speakeasies. And so that one, like, I also didn't know that LaGuardia was the guy who went after all that shit. So that tracks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's him. Again, fact checking. Hello, but like, I'm pretty sure it was him, and like the airport, because I remember it was the guy named after the airport, and I'm pretty sure it was him.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't JFK.
No.
So.
No, that's true. There's only so many.
So, okay. So where I wanted to go from that is like you say that obviously there was like, this was great, and then there's a backlash, and now it's back. And again, most of us have no fucking clue about any of that backstory. So we're getting our ideas from a random TV show or something that somebody said, or what, pop culture, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we probably misunderstand a lot about burlesque. And so, like, what are the common things that people get wrong?
Oh, yeah. So I think one of the biggest things I hear, especially from like my mom when she found out I was doing this, is that burlesque is the same thing as stripping. And I think that's, definitely probably one of the more common misconceptions. And I like definitely respect the shit out of strippers. I have a lot of friends who have stripped or are currently stripping. It is really hard work. It is dangerous. It's not nearly as respected in our society as I think it should be, but it is different. And I would say like burlesque and stripping, as I kind of talked about, where like the classic, today stripping or strip clubs really did kind of like come from that like burlesque history. It's just still very different now. And maybe like to describe as like they're like sisters, but they're not twins. They're like related, but not the same.
Okay.
Not that twins are the same, but you know what I mean. They like
yeah. Totally.
appear very similar. And I think you can think of it like stripping is essentially a sales job. That's how my friends who have stripped. So I've never stripped or been a stripper before, but when I've talked to my friends, like it's essentially a sales job where you are working in a club and you are trying to sell a product. And in that case, like you are the product, whether it's a lap dance or a private dance, whatever it is, like that is essentially what stripping is. It's like erotic entertainment. Whereas burlesque is really going to be more about like the art side of things. And it's more like the art of, like I mentioned, the art of the tease and the performance aspect of it and the artistic expression and telling a story. So, both can like definitely blend audience participation, right? Like stripping, that is like such a main component of stripping. Whereas burlesque, like there is a choice there. Like, do you interact with the audience? Are you totally, like breaking that fourth wall? And there's like choices, artistic choices you can make there and just focusing more on that like story and message. So I think like that is probably the most common thing that I hear about burlesque, and there's burlesque artists that call themselves strippers and, that's totally fine. I don't think I would necessarily, just like I said, knowing that like dichotomy and the amount of work and respect that I have for the stripping and stripper community, I think the work I do is just like different from that.
Okay. So like, yeah, the thing that really sticks out for me is the story aspect. Like what little I know and then what you've told me, like I get just, it's like a genre of theater. It's like a play, but, or something else in that space, but has some common characteristics. Satire has common characteristics. Musicals have common like it just feels like it's a different medium of expression that brings that like you said, like that the art of the tease, the allure to as the hook for the story.
Yeah. I think that is very true. And there's, such a realm and spectrum of burlesque nowadays where like, that classic sort of bump and grind, sparkly dress and feathers that you could see in like Vegas, that, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't know why my computer is like buzzing like that. I don't know how to make it stop.
It's fine.
But yeah, so like that, like very classic, like bump and tease to like, I don't know, I've seen like a few performers who will pull out like Velma from Scooby-Doo and they like do a Velma performance or, even, awesome. I mean, it's very political too. So yeah, I think like that's definitely a huge aspect of it because even with like the classic burlesque, there's some sort of story, there's some sort of expression that you are trying to communicate with the audience. And whether that's like, hey audience, you're gonna like keep your eyes on me and watch me and only think of me, like that could be the message. And that is like a powerful message to help people like forget about all the crazy things happening in their lives, and just to like really sit back and enjoy and just watch. And sometimes it can feel like you're like a voyeur watching this like beautiful person just, moving and just forget. And then sometimes it's just outright like, yo, like fuck this political climate and like dance about it, So yeah, so it can definitely like range there. And I think that also goes into like another misconception where people do have very like set thoughts about what burlesque is. And so if they've seen like the movie Burlesque, like the one with like Christina Aguilera, and it's like, it is very much like cabaret style, but that is like not truly like the message of burlesque, in my opinion. It's just like, there's just some people just have like a very set vision or set body types they might picture as burlesque. Maybe they only picture women doing burlesque, like cis women. And that's just like not the case. And there's just so many different forms of burlesque, like where you can see that. I keep going back to like the classic, like Vegas showgirl look, all the way to like, there's like comedy burlesque. I mentioned the neo burlesque. There is nerdlesque, where like it's just bringing in like, D&D, or just like, I don't know, like TV shows or comic books. There's boylesque with, male presenting people who perform, and they kind of get their own little genre. So it's just like really cool in the aspect that like there's so much, and you can be so many different things, and some people have their brand and like that is who they are. But yeah, there's just so much out there that like I can get on stage as like a little princess and like do some, I don't know, cute stuff as a princess, but then also like come on stage as this like sexy Satan worshiping witch, and like that's all okay. Like I don't need to have a brand in this form of art, and I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, clearly Ember was not always a burlesque performer. So how did you get into it?
Yeah. So this is where I truly believe in like spiritual play and intuition and whatnot, because I was like in a pretty rough patch. I mean, veterinary medicine in general. And obviously, like, this was, after a couple years of COVID, I was just like burned out, honestly. And I was looking for something, a hobby. And I'd always like, witchcraft was always like a part of my life from when I was even little. So like, I would say, like, at that point, I was like maybe reading some oracle cards and like not super in touch with my intuition. I'm going to say, like, it just wasn't something I was actively practicing or thinking about. But you know how intuition and all that stuff works, where it's just going to pop up when it wants to pop up. And so for me, I was actually looking for like a kickboxing class. Like, I don't even know why. Like, I was like, I want to do kickboxing. And I was so set on that. And I was like on Google searching like kickboxing in my area. And like the only thing that came up was this like really old Facebook page. And it looked like kind of sketchy because they didn't have like a web page, but it was in this building that was called like the Cortland Corset building, which is a super cool building, like whole other story about it. It was literally like a corset factory, and it's just such a beautiful like building in my town. But I had never been there before. So I looked it up and I was like, okay, like let's go check it out. And I like walked into this building, and there was definitely no kickboxing. But I was kind of like searching around, and I saw these flyers for like the Bee's Knees Burlesque Academy. And at that point, I also like my only experience with burlesque was actually at a Comic-Con show where like it was like very much nerdlesque. It was like Buffy themed. And so like, wow. Yeah, it was really good. It was fun, but that was like, I had like just turned 21 maybe. And so that was my only experience. But there was something about like the flyers that just, I don't know, man, that like intuition. And I saw it and then talked to my therapist about it for literally 6 months. I was like, I just feel like I need to do something. And like, I don't know, this burlesque thing, like I've never danced before, so I don't think I can go. And she was just like, she would listen. And I've been with my therapist for a really long time. And eventually she was just like, Erica, like you should just go. Like you should just, my cat, oh my goodness. She's like, you really just need to go.
Yeah.
And so I did. And I went to a chair class. So like dancing with the chair and like doing choreo with the chair. And I just like fell in love with it. And I've never danced before. I have never had taken dance classes. And this studio that I still take classes at is just such like, the community there is so amazing. I've met so many incredible people that are like all just from so many different backgrounds. And I've met so many performers. And my mentor, her name is Tessa Trueheart. Like she has really like pushed me to perform in groups and perform solo. And so like, I think if you would have asked me a couple years ago, like, hey, Ember, you're going to be doing this like in a few years, I would have like laughed in your face and been like, yeah, okay, like no way. And even like when I first went to my first class, I also was like, there's no way I'm going to ever perform. Like this is just for exercise. And that changed like pretty quickly. So
yeah,
how I got there.
Amazing. And like, it's interesting how like it's just flows really perfectly into the next topic area I wanted to dig into, because like just hearing it in your voice, like this empowerment that this burlesque for you is like this very like powerful thing that allows you to like express yourself and be who you are. Like, what has burlesque taught you about that?
Yeah. Oh man, so many things. So many things. So dance in general, right? Like is such a grounding technique. It's,
Mm.
like I don't even know. I just can't even think of anything that can like give you sort of that same vibe. Like there's, sitting in meditation, which I have done and I've done successfully, but there's like a different flow state that happens when I am dancing. And I think a lot of that honestly has to do with that like connection you feel to like I don't even know history, right? People have been dancing for thousands of years
Mm.
before there was
Yeah.
like written language and that's just so mind-boggling to me where you see these like graphics on cave walls of people dancing around a fire. Like that is the depth of the level we're going to when we're talking about like the history. And I truly feel that like you can feel that when you're dancing. Like and maybe like there's different vibes whether you're at a club but like when I'm home and I'm just like in my dance studio, like right now I'm in my dance studio recording, it's this like headspace that I get to where like I'm connected in my body and my mind feels like it is in some other realm, and so I don't know, like it just feels so powerful, I guess. And like, I still struggle with like body dysmorphia and, just like negative self-talk and stuff like that. But when I perform or when I have like a really good dance session, like I feel like I can take that energy with me and just like keep it for a few days, kind of have that like residual powerful energy. And like it just feels like I'm like communicating with my higher self. Like there's like some sort of body with me dancing, whether it's like a divine energy or my higher self, whatever you want to call it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's a transmutation thing that's going on too, because like you're talking about, having the negative self-talk or body dysmorphia or whatever, and like you go into that session and you turn that negative energy into something positive,
Yeah.
right? Right? And then amplify. Like I think there's one. So again, like I don't usually dance, but the last couple of days, I don't know, maybe it's just like my intuition prepping me for this conversation. But I was dancing and I'm like, yeah, like it's one thing to be grounded, it's another thing to be grounded in dancing, like cuz like they tell you to like bring your awareness to all your parts of your body. It's like, well, if you're moving all the parts of your body, like you'll have an extra awareness there. It's like, wow, you're really in your body.
Yeah.
And you're able to like, I don't know, maybe it keeps your neocortex busy, like, like thinking about, and so like the mental chatter also starts to go away. And you're just kind of, yeah, like I totally vibe with what you're saying.
Yeah. It truly like that mental chatter is definitely something that like it took a really long time for me to get like my anxiety and that mental chatter under control. Like I have ADHD. And so like it just,
Same.
yeah, I mean, it's just it makes it so hard to like calm that voice in your head and I really feel like a lot of people focus so much on like am I moving right? Like am I doing this right? And I think if you can just
Yeah.
really like let that go, especially if you're alone. Like I would challenge people who are like, "Oh, I don't dance," or like, "I don't do that." Like find a space alone and just like let your body go so that way you can like let go of that fear you might have of like people watching you or whatever and just like really just step into it and realize there is like no wrong way to move. Like sometimes my dancing is literally me just like shaking my whole body, like that's it. And I'm like in
Yeah.
the studio and it feels so good to just like take that energy like you said and just like let it go. And it really is just like it's so vulnerable with like yourself. Like it's I think it's a vulnerable thing to do with other people, but also yourself.
Oh yeah.
So and I just like really think that like that empowerment and that power comes from like a long lineage of women or people who have just been doing this for so long that you can like channel that and it is just it feels so good.
Yeah, that ancestral connection is not something that I've really thought about consciously until you bring it up. And I'm just like, oh, wait, that's so real. But I'm really glad that you said that there's no right way to move, right? Because honestly, that was one of my hangups. Like, again, like I didn't like dancing when I went to dances as a kid, like, because I'm in my head. Like, how am I supposed, what's the cool way to dance? How am I supposed to dance to be accepted? And I turned it into this thing that was like another form of rejection. And then I start rejecting myself before anybody else does because I'm just not going to dance at all. Then if I don't dance at all, then nobody can say anything, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like, giving people permission to be moving however the hell they fucking want to move. That's a great message. If we don't get anything else in on the podcast, there you go. Move how you want to move. Enjoy it. That's what it's
Go out in the
about.
trees, like go out in the
Yeah.
woods and just like move under the moon, or just find like a room in your house and blast your favorite song and just like, I don't know, they call it like ecstatic dancing, right? Where you're just like literally shaking and moving your whole body. And then like there's also a time and place for learning like how to control your muscle movement to get the kind of like classic moves you might be interested in. There's that time and place too, you know, and
Yeah.
there's schools out there to learn that stuff. But if you're just trying to like really figure out like where dance may fit into your life and your practice, like 100% just, you know, channel that energy, and it's totally fine and amazing to do it, you know, alone, or, you know, potentially alone, like, or with your spirit guides or whoever, right?
Right, right. So, do you see parallels between burlesque and like spiritual practices like ritual or embodiment work?
Yeah, like hell yeah. So I think we've like touched on some of this a little bit, but essentially like the way I prepare for some of like my burlesque, you know, practices, rehearsals, performances, or an act is like essentially kind of the same way you prepare for ritual, right? Like you kind of gather your materials, you have this like prepping experience where you're like either setting the tone with like a circle, or you're, you know, putting on your makeup and like adornment type things. So yeah, there's definitely parallels there. And for me, like I definitely do ritual work like around my burlesque. Those are like definitely not separate in my brain. And I think a lot of that came from a book I read by Australia Taylor. It's called Inspiring Creativity Through Magic. I highly recommend it for any artist, you know, writing, authors, painters, dancers. This book really like, I don't know, like helped me create like a sacred space for my
Mm.
dance. It just kind of like gave me a really nice toolkit to incorporate ritual into my burlesque. You know, I set up like representations of the elements, and I always start my practices by like setting up a circle. And sometimes I'll even like dance to the different elements, like, you know, see what water feels like and move like that, and fire, and I'll combine them. What is like the push and pull of fire and water?
Cool.
And yeah, and like one of one of my favorite things she also talks about are like egregores. Have you ever like heard of egregores before?
Yeah, so the first episode that I recorded for this season, we got into egregores for like 20 minutes.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so from
Yeah.
my like understanding of egregores and from the book, it's essentially like every idea has an egregore, right? Like anything
Mm.
that like hatches and comes about, or objects, things all have this egregore. And so she has like a whole chapter on how you can like create the egregore for a piece or a book or something, you know, an artwork piece that you're working on. So like my favorite thing to do now is like figure out and like meditate on like what my act egregore might be, and I like sketch him like from the sea. Yeah, and then they like becomes my little buddy while I'm like performing. I like talk to, you know, talk to it and like get to know them, and it just feels so witchy and cool, and like
I love
um
it. I love it.
yeah.
I love it so much.
I
So
love it.
cool.
Matt, I have to let my cat out because she's just like screaming. So I will be right back.
Do what you got to do.
Come here, baby. Go out. Leave. Okay. She's just like sitting by the door screaming. She's this little black cat that just, you know, wants to be a part of everything, but also needs to do
Right.
whatever she
And
wants.
like, clearly you're not going to pay me attention, so let me the fuck out. Awesome. Awesome. Oh gosh, that is so cool. That is so cool. Like the idea of having a dialogue with an egregore while you're performing, like mind blowing, but also feels extremely like it feels it Like you describe it, and then I'm like, yeah, like that totally makes sense. I love that. I love that so much. So like, yeah, let's just dive into the heart of it. Like I've got this question here that says, let's talk about the magic of movement, literally. And it feels so like dorky now to say it like that. Like
No,
the
I love it
magic
though.
the magic of movement. It's like a Disney special. But like you're infusing all this witchcraft into the performances themselves. Like you're calling in elements and you're casting a circle, which again, I'm geeking out right now. How did that start? Like how did you bring that together?
Yeah, so honestly, like I can't even take credit for it really because it was one of my mentors. I work with Elise Wells from Seeking Numina. She also like does the Magic Kitchen podcast.
That's funny. I was
I
just listening to the Magic Kitchen a couple days ago
Oh yeah.
because I met Leandra
Oh yes.
while I was at that. She was helping facilitate the energy healer training that I was at, and she was one of the people who was staying in the party house.
That's so
So
cool.
so yeah, like Leandra's like my best friend now.
I love that. So yeah, I literally just saw Elise last weekend. I like was driving to Charlottesville and I stopped and had lunch with her.
Amazing.
So I love that. Yeah, they are just such incredible people. Like
Uh,
I love both of them. I've never met Leandra in person, but definitely have like joined her community and like learned so much. So
yeah.
I love both of them very much. And Elise, I've been doing like one-on-one mentorships with her monthly for over a year now. Um,
Cool.
yeah, and like I think before I really started talking with her, I didn't really like that like combining of my dance and spiritual life and energy. Like I think I was doing it on a subconscious level, like but there was no like intentional practice there. And before that, like I would, dance and rehearsal was always like really anxious, anxiety producing for me, where I'd like go downstairs and I'd be all like frantic and be like, okay, I gotta like put all my clothes on and do these things. And so, I was talking to her one day about like how I didn't feel super like attuned with my spirituality. Like I just had a lot going on and I was like, I don't even know where I can fit in like my spirituality right now. And then she's like, Erica, like, you know, I keep saying Erica. Erica is like my veterinary human name. Ember is like my performance witchy name. So that's why I keep going back and forth.
I figured that was the case, but especially when I got your email, and I'm like, okay, yeah, and I think I'd heard you. I think I'd heard you call yourself Erica once, but like I just I'm just like, okay, that's got to be like Ember's the persona that you
Yeah,
wear in this kind of space. But yeah,
they're both
totally get it.
me, right? Like I don't think it's
Right.
anything like intentional of like, I don't really care if like I said, my work knows. So it's just, I think Ember feels a lot like this part of me, that higher self part of me that I like get into when I'm
Yeah.
doing
I'm
like that.
Falcon's mage. Like
Yes.
it's a thing. Having a
They're
I don't
important. Names are important and their power. And you can
it could
call
be an egregore in itself, right? Like it's kind of like your egregore that's just like sitting here with you all the time.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so like definitely like not an issue. Like so, she was just like, Erica, when you're dancing, like how do you feel? And that question kind of like threw me off, I think,
Mm.
because I was like, I don't know, like I'm just dancing. And then I like really thought about it and I was like, well, I feel sexy and I feel empowered. And she just kind of like challenged me and was like, dance is like clearly this tool, right? Like it's this thing you use to like tap into some sort of like divine part of yourself. Like why don't you
Mm.
try practicing your spirituality like through dance and movement? And then like from there, it literally just like clicked. Like I went down once, I like cast the circle, which is again, that was reserved for like my ritual time and my spiritual time. But I just like combined them. And that was like the point where I was like, fuck, like this feels good and this makes sense.
Mm.
And so that's really where, and from there, it just kind of like took off to like just combining all the things that I love. Like I'll pull cards for myself before I dance. Like it's become part of the ritual.
You hear that, folks? Integration. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep. Maybe that's going to be the theme of this. Like, I didn't set a theme for this season. I just wanted to see what happened. And I just started saying, who are all the people that I want to talk to that I don't care. Like, it does not have to be this correct collection, because I've themed things before, and I'm like, no, we're just gonna let it. But yeah, this integration theme keeps popping up right now, and you're like just painting this really beautiful picture of that. So I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Like, bring the things together and it feels right.
Yeah.
It's right then.
Yeah. You don't got time to like put everything in little boxes. Like you
It's
gotta like
true. It's
it's
true.
exhausting.
But we're told we have to, right? We're
I mean,
told that we have to. You have to be this here, but you can't bring your whole self. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. Like, you have to keep these things over here, and that's not how we were, however you want to say we came into the universe, created or evolved or both or like neither. Like, we were not designed to separate our soul into all these little pieces, and you can only bring certain pieces with you into certain, like, that's not it. That's a tool of control.
yes. 100%. 100. Bringing it back. Bringing it back around.
Love it. Love it. So let's get into the Inanna goddess energy fun stuff. So, like, you work with goddess energy in your performances. Love that. Where's the inspiration for that come from?
I again have to give credit to Elise for this. I think while we were having this conversation about my spirituality and it was the same time where I was like crafting a new act. And I think that was part of it because like again, I was trying to like separate it out, right? Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
spending all my time on this act. I don't have time for my spirituality right now. And I just like described to her what was going on. So the song was Let's Have a Satanic Orgy by Twin Tempo, which if
Fantastic.
you've never listened to have you ever listened to Twin
I
Tempo
have
before?
not, but just, I mean, I'm here for it.
Yes, 100%. Oh my god, their music is phenomenal. Like, highly recommend.
Sweet.
But I was like describing this act, and I was like, I kind of want to be like this maiden lost in the woods, being like enticed and grabbed into like this powerful, like satanic orgy master, right? Like, I'm just like this badass. I actually like that's what the pentagram pasties were for and stuff. They were like red and black. And she's just like casually like, oh, like this story sounds like Persephone's descent and like her transformation. And again, it was just like this click of just like, oh yeah, like it is. And so I just started like, I set up like a little altar for Persephone and I just was like having conversations and meditating and working with her. And it was like, as I was dancing and creating this act, it was like I could feel her working with me. And it was just so freaking cool. And so now when I have a piece, really just like meditating on the act and the idea and drawing from the mythos of like the gods and goddesses is, I think, really cool and just something
Yeah.
that I've like, it's just really fun too and empowering. And so I just really feel like whoever is working with me for that piece is like, who's coming through and so right now I am working on a piece right now where I'm really trying to like channel through with Inanna and she's who I'm working with right now.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, tapping into and embodying like the goddess energy that corresponds to the act that you're working on. Like, again, like, it's not something that I would have thought of until you described it, and it's just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so immediately I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think about how can I, bring these ideas into the things that I do. Because again, integration, I'm just like, okay, well, what's my correspondences to what you're talking about? Like, for me, I mean, one of my things like is writing. Like,
Yeah.
I have had this writing block for a few months now, and while we were doing like the energy healing, so basically all of us are practicing on each other the first few days, and while this one person was working on like my sacral chakra, like said they saw like the symbol of a quill, a writing quill, and like it needed to be cleaned. And I was just like, well, that tracks. And so yeah, like,
Will.
I'm thinking like, all right, well, how do I bring that to like my writing, for example? Like, how do I think about like, okay, whose energy am I bringing to this particular piece that I want to write, and then having that conversation. That just seems like a really cool idea. So I'll probably go do that. I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah, I love that. And like really feeling like channeling whoever you're working with and like thinking about how they would write it, right? Like if as if you like embody their voice, right? Because like for me, I definitely believe like we are all part of the divine, right? Like I definitely
Yeah.
think like work through me. So when I'm dancing, I'm like, how would they move? Like how would they feel during this? Is it like sad? Is it, you know, is it power, anger, revenge? Like what are we feeling and how to communicate that?
Yeah, and like going back, I was just thinking, doing this, pulling cards. It's like, okay, how would this goddess move? Like,
Mhm.
you know, versus, let's see who we pulled out. Like very different energy, but
Yes.
yeah, like there's you could probably go through and pull cards from this deck and just like make up a dance to go with a card, or make up, again, to like, how would that person move? How would that person talk?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff, especially like people will talk about how to use tarot with creativity, and like, interviewing the card and trying to understand the card's feelings, and trying to understand, what is the situation that this person is sitting in, and how does that impact them, like, and again, all of it's back here in your unconscious, and you're just pulling it out with these things. But I think the point is, like, there's so many different ways that you can do that and tap into that energy. The point is tapping into the energy.
Yes.
So Inanna, not everyone's going to know who that is.
All right. Inanna. So Inanna, just like one of the most badass ancient goddesses of like Sumerian origin. She is just like she's actually sort of like Aphrodite. So Aphrodite kind of like came from Inanna. They're very like synonymous with each other.
Okay.
You know, Inanna was like the Sumerian goddess. Aphrodite is like the Greek way, but Aphrodite developed, right? Like Inanna is like the goddess of love and war. And then Aphrodite kind of became this like little bit more of like patriarchal view of Inanna of like
Okay.
love and this beautiful goddess. Like I love playing off of like both their vibes, right? Like they both kind of, represent like Venus and all these like beautiful, strong, amazing things. And she's just like represents like sensuality and fertility and like the goddess of life and death. And she just literally like when you read her story, she just like does whatever the heck she wants. And she's just like so strong and powerful. And like she really shows like femininity as being this like multifaceted, like femininity is just so multifaceted, right? And I think like a lot of our gods and goddesses, as we've sort of like moved throughout time and patriarchy kind of like pulls at a lot of these concepts, they really try to box it, right? Like Aphrodite's this badass warrior goddess and she's the goddess of love and sensuality. But like so much of like our knowledge and media and always kind of like puts her in this like really pretty feminine like this is me, I'm the goddess of love, but like no, she's also badass. So that is Inanna. So that is like the energy that I'm trying to pull into this next piece.
Get you a goddess that can do both.
Yes. And they usually all can. They usually all
Right? So what are you doing with that? What are you creating from that?
Yes. So Anana has a lot of mythos that you can like read about. But one of probably her most like famous stories is of her descent into the underworld, and she goes through these seven gates, and to go through these gates to be allowed into the underworld. She's like shedding different parts of her armor and aspects of herself to essentially arrive to the underworld like completely naked and vulnerable. So, obviously like that just like strongly paralleled burlesque so much to me. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like, this is like we're shedding, we're sharing. And so I just like when I was thinking of this new act, I just was like, oh, this is so perfect. And I've been working a little bit with like Anana's energy anyway. And so being able to like talk with her and work with her has been really rewarding. And I just feel so privileged and honored that like it's just been such like a positive experience. So I chose the song like Burn It to the Ground by Nickelback because like who doesn't love Nickelback? We got some
Yeah.
Nickelback vibes and
There you go. There you go. Hilarious.
You know, just Anana would literally just burn everything to the ground right now. Like, just that is how I'm feeling. You know, we're talking about revenge, right? So this is where the revenge is coming in.
I'm getting that gif of like she's tossing the match over her shoulder and the car's on fire or whatever. Like that's what it's giving right now.
Yeah. So I tend to be like a much like this specific act is going to be a little bit challenging for me in the sense that like I tend to fall more into like light and fairy and like cutesy. And so I want this one to be like badass, sexy, hot, like anger, and just like letting a lot of that go and like shedding it. And so I've got like a costume with like roses and flames and things like that. So I'm really excited and I think it's going to be really cool. And I can definitely let you know how it goes.
This is your badass bitch coming out party.
Yeah.
I love it. I fucking love it. It's awesome. All right. So I guarantee there's at least a handful of people who have listened to this and said, okay, yeah, I need to try this. What message do you have for them?
I think, you know, start local. I think finding yourself a studio to work at, if there is in your area, like just give one class a shot. I think if you can like get the confidence to go to like one class, you're going to be hooked. Like I meet so many people who come in and, you know, I've been at the studio for like 2 years now and I just see people who come in and they're just like so nervous and, you know, don't really know what they're doing. And then they're like performing at the end of the year with like our group. And I'm just like, it's just that vibe, that like local being supported by community, but not everyone like has that. So there's definitely online options too. And so my studio has like an online Zoom option. So you can always join and learn that way. And just sort of like join a class and see how it feels. Go to a show. Like, I think it really just like go do it. It sounds really scary. And like I said, my first reaction was like, I would never do this. Like I would never perform on stage and take my clothes off. Like I could never do that. And now I do it all the time and I love it.
I love
I'm
it.
just like, yay, watch me.
It's amazing.
So yeah, I think just do it. And anybody is honestly like, if you put my Instagram, welcome to message me and I'm happy to talk about it more.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for offering that to folks. I love that. Well, cool. I know that you got to get going here in a bit. And let's see, we're at about an hour and 20 on this conversation. So it's feeling about normal. Cool. But you're going to listen to this beginning to end. There's no way you're going to not finish this one. This has been one of the most fun episodes we've ever done. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt.
And thank you for bringing your contagious energy to the show. I'm loving it. So that's it for today's episode of Contemplating Resonance. If you enjoyed this conversation, you want to stay connected on Substack, contemplatingresonance.com. That's where you get to see all of the videos, my email newsletter, which I promise is going to start having editions again. We just talked about that. And also, I think about half of you listen through Apple, so keep doing that. Please leave reviews and 5-star shit. Like, give me algorithm love. Spotify, Google Podcast, I don't care. Give me algorithm love so that more people will find us. You are starting to do that, I think, because I'm starting to get a nice little trickle of new subscribers, so I'm loving it. Also doing the social media thing still for now. Still on Instagram and Facebook at Contemplating Resonance for now. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So feel free, please send a message. Tell me what you want to hear about. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you hate. And and tell me what obviously resonated the most with you from today's episode. Until next time, I am Matt Stein, and stay resonant, folks.